Okay, I'd like to continue this whole conversation that I had with this Jehovah's Witness about everything. Will be part two. So if you haven't seen part one, watch part one first and then come back to this one. Our conversation continues. One thing that we need to consider is that the brothers and sisters, or Bible students, years ago celebrated certain things and observed the cross and also believed the pyramid of Egypt was God's stone witness during Jesus' inspection of 1918 through 1919. This, my friend, is a fact. Most brothers and sisters don't realize this fact. How is it that among all religions around the earth that Jesus selected the Bible students as his faithful and discreet slave in 1919 if they were involved in pagan practices? It doesn't make sense. If a brother or sister were involved in those same pagan practices today, would Jesus find them acceptable? The answer is obvious. No. I don't think most brothers and sisters actually take the time to actually dig deep into the society's history and realize and accept these facts. Consider this. Now this is from Isaiah's prophecy, Light for All Mankind, page 348. It says this: in 1918, 3.5 years after his enthronement, he cleansed Jehovah's spiritual temple, as represented on earth by the Congregation of Anointed Christians. Okay, just keep that in mind. And consider this. This is from the Watchtower 1998, May 15th, page 17. Anointed Christians who survived the testing period of 1914 through 1919 were freed from the dominating influence of the world and from Babylonish religious practices. Really? The remnant went forward as cleansed and refined people, willingly offering sacrifices of praise to God and having the assurance that they as a people were acceptable to Him. And this one, God's kingdom of 1,000 years has approached, page 350 and 355. Their serving of food, the right sort of food at the proper time, was the issue. It had to be according to this that a decision must be rendered by the returned master on inspecting the remnant of his anointed disciples in the year 1919. The reigning King Jesus Christ did find the appointed slave faithful and discreet in feeding of his domestics. Accordingly, he appointed this slave class over all his belongings. There's a lot of other points that I made here. He brought up Christmas and everything, and I said, consider this quote about when Christmas was stopped being celebrated. What caused the Bible students to stop celebrating Christmas? Richard H. Barber gave this answer. I was asked to give an hour talk over radio hookup on the subject of Christmas. It was given December 12, 1928, and published in the Golden Age, number 241, and again a year later in number 268. That talk pointed out the pagan origin of Christmas. After that, the brothers at Bethel never celebrated Christmas again. Let me go back to that. The talk was given December 12th, 1928. And after that, the brothers never celebrated Christmas again. Now, that's why I said, remember, I got a light just went out. You have to remember that my friend had brought up that the witnesses stopped celebrating in like the 40s or whatever. See, witnesses do not even know their own history, which is sad. But then again, I have to admit it, as a JW, I didn't even know my history. So it's funny that most people who leave, ex-JWs, apostates, whatever you want to call them, know more about the society's history, the organization, than any JW out there. It's really ironic. So, this is what I said to him. I said, so officially after 1928, the brothers and sisters stopped celebrating Christmas. But wait, wasn't Jesus' inspection in 1919? Okay, let that sink in for a minute. I'll read that again. I said to him, officially after 1928, the brothers and sisters stopped celebrating Christmas. So they didn't stop celebrating Christmas till after 1928. And I said, wasn't Jesus' inspection in 1919? Isn't that 9 years too late? And I said to him regarding birthdays, it wasn't until 1951 that the society started not celebrating birthdays. Is it proper to have or attend celebrations of birthday anniversaries? This is FK Nevada. Such celebrations have their roots in pagan religions and not scriptural grounds. Some Bible commenters suggest that birthday celebrations may have had their origin in the notion of the immortality of the soul. That's from the Watchtower in 1951, October 1st, page 607. Questions from readers. I pointed out to him, shouldn't the same thing apply to owning a dog or wearing eye makeup? If we are to assume the mention of something bad in the Bible is to warn against such things, despite no statement to the effect that endless more rules can be conjured. For example, bringing up dogs, I gave the mention of dogs. You can do the research for yourself. And eye paint and a bunch of other things. But see, one thing that I wanted to point out to him was the fact of wedding anniversaries. A lot of witnesses celebrate wedding anniversaries. It's just a common thing. They even have like anniversary parties for like a witness couple who's been married for like say 25, 50 years or something like that. And I said to him, the society, as real as it may seem to most brothers and sisters, has a lot of double standards. A person can't celebrate a birthday, but a couple can celebrate their wedding anniversary. I would love to see the scripture that deems celebrating wedding anniversaries as acceptable to Jehovah. Do you know of one? Isn't that placing special importance to a married couple just like a birthday? And I continued, I've learned to live by this. If God wanted us to abstain from birthdays, it is reasonable to conclude he would have specified as much. With over 600 intricately detailed rules of the Mosaic Law, birthdays could have been mentioned if they were offensive to Jehovah. I went on to ask him, let me ask you this. Let's say tomorrow the faithful and discreet slave decide to change its stance on birthdays because of new light. Do you think every brother and sister would start celebrating them? How do we know what's old light now won't become new light, then become old light again? Every brother and sister earthwide take whatever the governing body put in print as truth. Take the change in the generation teaching, for example. You and I both know for many years the society taught that all the persons that witnessed the events of 1914, the generation of 1914, will not all pass away before Armageddon. It was published in practically every magazine, and even we studied it in the You Can Live Forever in Paradise book. And now, since all of those persons have passed away, the governing body have decided to change the meaning altogether. Doesn't that strike you as odd? It should. It should strike every brother and sister around the globe as odd. Why, after all these years, would they completely change the meaning? Now, you can take all this information and perhaps let it sink in, or you can even ignore it and just name slap me angered or bitter. But everything I have mentioned is factual. I have taken lots of time to study intently on a lot of things that I have mentioned. My hope is that most brothers and sisters actually take the time to learn the society's history. That's it. They will actually look at things much differently. This isn't negative or anything like that. It's realistic. I mean, seriously, why keep the real truth about certain things hidden from people? I've often wondered why the society isn't upfront and honest with everyone about everything that has happened in the society's history. Why would you think they wouldn't be honest about certain things? Also, consider everything that I have mentioned. Don't just quickly push it aside and do a modus operandi, which is attack the messenger but ignore the message. And I will end part 2 here, and then we will continue to part 3.